Okay, kids. So we're going to talk about the time signature today. All right. Now, before you move on to the next, I do explain this in a more advanced form in my next point video, point two. But this will be for the ones who need a little extra, uh, need a little slower pace as far as me breaking this down, as far as what we're going to talk about, which is the time signature. And the time signature is just what it is. It tells you the time of each measure. Okay. Now, if you remember from the last videos, I had something like this. I had a number one, then I drew a rhythm. Okay. Now, number one, let's give that another name. Let's call it measure one. Measure one. Okay. And a measure is going to be what we call each group or each set of notes that we have on each example. So from the previous video, you had a measure one and number two. We're going to call that measure two. It may have been something like this. Okay. A little bit different from measure one. But these two measures have something in common. Okay. Each one of these measures have a certain amount of beats in them. Okay. Now, if you're just looking at it, you should be able to see that in each measure, they have four different beats. They have four beats. Okay. Let's look at measure one. That's one beat. That's two beats. Three beats. And four beats. So there are four different groups. Okay. Four different groups. All right. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, Mr. Burton, in this group, I see two notes. I don't just see one note. So why isn't it five beats in that measure? That's because these two notes are actually by themselves would be smaller than these three notes. Okay? Let's bring this over here. If I were to split these two up, they would look like this. Okay? That's what they would look like. These are called eighth notes. Eighth notes. Okay? And this is called a quarter note. Okay? Now, if we were to do some math here, I would tell you that it takes two eighth notes to make one quarter note. So if I were to try to make the beat equivalent, which means if I were to try to get one beat, like I have one beat from this quarter note from these two, I would need both of them to make a beat because they are smaller than that. It takes two eighth notes to make one quarter note. Again, it takes two eighth notes to make one quarter note. Okay? So now moving forward, if you were to look back over here, because now that you know it takes two of these to make one of these as far as in beats, that's why we'll explain why this only equals up one beat or one group. It's only in one group. Okay? So I have one beat here. I have another beat here. I have another beat here. And I have another beat here. Okay? In total, in measure one, I have four beats. If I were to add up all the quarter notes, that's 1, 2, 3. Going back, looking at these eighth notes, that's also a 1 beat. Okay? Because it takes 2 of these to equal up to 1 of these. Okay? All right. So I have 1 beats, 2 beats, 3 beats, 4 beats. Now let's look at measure 2. How many beats do I have? If you said 4, that is also correct. Some of you may look at this and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6. Nope. Let's remember, I need 2 eighth notes to cost the same as a quarter note. Okay? I need 2 eighth notes to count as the same as 1 quarter note. Okay? So in this example, I see 2 eighth notes here. Together, they make a beat. So that's 1. I see a quarter note by itself here. That's another beat. 2. I see another pair of eighth notes here. That's another beat. 3. I see I see 1 quarter note here. That's another beat. 4. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in putting this with a time signature, this would explain why I have the values I did. Okay? My time signature is 4-4. Okay? My time signature is 4-4. Now, that looks like a fraction. In a way, it is a fraction. Okay? So, if I were to put this on this staff, it'll look like this. First thing first, let's go ahead and now if you don't have a pen or paper, please go ahead and pause the video and get one now. Okay. Now, the first thing you want to do, once you draw your 5 lines, that's making your staff, okay? You need 5 lines straight side by side, going from left to right, or right to left, however you want to draw it. 5 lines, all right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw my treble clef. If you have trouble drawing a treble clef, make sure you look at the previous video, okay? Just as a little reminder to drawing a treble clef. It's drawing a line straight down. Draw a little tail going out. Go back to the top of that line. Draw one line going out and in, out, in, out, in, out, in. And you're just repeating that step until you circle in a treble clef, okay? Now, after I draw my treble clef on the staff, now I can draw my time signature, okay? Which goes right after the treble clef. I put this same 4-4 right here, okay? Now, let's take measure 1 and let's draw it in that measure. Let's actually draw it on the staff, okay? So as you can see in measure 1, I have a do, day, do. Just so everyone can see, let's draw all of that in this space here. Do, excuse me, let me do that a little bit better. Do, day, do. Okay, so I put the same thing that I have in measure 1, I put it on my staff now, all on this same space, okay? Which has a letter name, and we're going to talk about that very soon, okay? So, now we're going to see how all of this equals up to our time signature, which is 4/4. All right, and let's count it again. That's one beat here. That's another beat. These two eighth notes together, so that's 2 beats so far. 3 and 4. Okay, I have 4 beats in my measure. That top number tells me I'm finished because that top number tells me how many beats I should have in each measure. What is my top number? 4. Okay. Since I already counted out 4 beats, I'm finished. Now that I'm finished on my staff here, I can draw this. One line, and at the very end, let's close it off. Once again, since I'm finished with this measure, I can draw one line, and right next to it to close it off, I draw my second. That's a double bar line I drew. A double bar line. And that lets me know I'm finished with my measure. I drew measure 1 right on the staff, and I'm finished. Okay? And now remember, if you have trouble and you have questions, feel free to contact me via my email address, rashad.burton@libertasmemphis.org. And I will do my best to get back with you as soon as possible, okay? Just to recap before we finish, I now have a time signature, which is 4/4. After drawing my 5 lines to make a staff, I drew a treble clef, and I drew my time signature right next to it, the 4/4, which tells me 4 beats I need to make a measure, okay? All right. And we're going to draw our 4 beats, which is the quarter note, a pair of eighth notes, another quarter note, and another quarter note. That all equals up 4 beats. These quarter notes gets 1 beat by themselves, and the pair of eighth notes gets 1 beat because it takes 2 eighth notes to equal up to the same value as 1 quarter note, okay? All right, and we're going to be moving even further in our next videos. I hope that was okay, and have fun practicing.